to read Matthew chapter 4, verse 12 to 23, what Aaron just talked about with the kids. Now when Jesus heard that John had been arrested, he withdrew into Galilee, and leaving Nazareth, he went and dwelt in Capernaum by the sea, in the territory of Zebulun and Naphtali. That was what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah might be fulfilled. The land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, toward the sea, across the Jordan, the Galilee of the Gentiles. The people who sat in darkness have seen a great light, and for those who sat in the region and shadow of death, light has dawned. From that time, Jesus began to preach, saying, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." And as he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who's called Peter, and Andrew, his brother. They were casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." And immediately they left their nets and they followed him. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets. And he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father, and they followed him. And then we're going to turn to 1 Corinthians, which is like half the way back in the New Testament, if you're following. And we're going to go just to chapter 1. First Corinthians is after Romans, if you're supposed to. And we're going to read verse 10 through 18. This is Paul writing to the church that he founded in Corinth. He says, "I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree, and that there be no dissensions among you, but that you would be united in the same mind and the same judgment. For it's been reported to me by Chloe's people that there is quarreling among you, my brothers and sisters." I love that Chloe had people. Chloe's people have reported, right? Better than unnamed sources have told me that there's quarreling. What I mean is that each of you say that you belong to, I belong to Paul, I belong to Apollos, or I belong to Cephas, or I belong to Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Or were you baptized in the name of Paul? I am thankful that I baptized none of you except Crispus and Gaius, lest any one of you should say that you were baptized in my name. I did also baptize the household of Stephanas. Beyond that, I don't really know whether I baptized anyone else. You're supposed to laugh there. And if you're not paying attention, you missed the joke. Sorry. For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, and not with eloquent wisdom, lest the cross of Christ be emptied of its power. For the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it's the power of God. Bless you. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Proof right there that Paul did not know he was writing the Bible, because he would not have put a parenthetical thought like, well, maybe, I don't really remember. It's possible I baptize other people, but you can't really hold me to it. Thus says the Lord, right? So Jesus' cousin, John, had just been arrested, we read. And John was perhaps the only one that Jesus could rely upon to understand the ministry that Jesus was about to start, right? And so now Jesus, if you imagine, he's kind of on his own, right? He's without kin, you might even say. And so he heads away from where he knows, and he goes to the coast in Galilee, where he calls several men who worked in the fishing industry. So fishing was an important part of the Galilean economy in the first century. In fact, I dug so deep into this, I had to swim backstroke to get out of it. I was so interested in the first century Galilean fish enterprise. So in the industry in the first century of Galilee, we can't look at it as if it's free enterprise though, right? Like we look at any industry from our lens and everything is like a capitalistic free enterprise, right? That's not true for first century Galilee. Fishermen were part of a state-regulated, kind of elite profiting enterprise. Each fisherman owed their livelihood to a family hierarchy, which then owed their allegiance and their taxes to a segment of the empire that was just a little bit above them. And then they owed their living and their taxes to the rung above them, and so on, right? So taxes trickled down and wealth trickled up. That is the economy of the fishermen in the first century in Galilee, right? Now, I did learn that fishermen could learn could form cooperatives if they wanted to, if they dared to try to work together, which would mean that they would have to trust one another, right? So instead of just working for themselves and paying taxes right above, they could form cooperatives that they actually called koinonias, which is the word that we get fellowship from in the Greek, right? So these fellowships could then bid on fishing gigs together. Now again, I'm starting to use language that's like American and free or global enterprise now, right? They didn't really bid on it. It meant that they could work together and maybe have bigger projects, which would mean more work and more taxes, but maybe a little bit more wealth for them. That's what Jesus went to in Galilee. That's the enterprise he decided he would start. Those are his first workers, right? If Jesus were to go to the docks in, let's say, Perth Amboy, New Jersey, right? There are 5 docks in Perth Amboy. First, he would find that due to climate change, the flounder, this saltwater flounder, that used to be caught in North Carolina is now actually caught in New Jersey because they've migrated to cooler waters, right? So Jesus would find that. The second thing he would find is that the average annual salary for a New Jersey fisherman in 2015, so not long ago, is $36,900 a year. So I did a little more research and I found a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house on Lowry Street in Perth Amboy for $1,700 a month rent. I crunched some numbers, not hard to do, and after taxes and utilities and insurance, right, assuming that that $36,000 comes also with health insurance and that that fisherman doesn't have to buy his own insurance, which is a really, really large assumption. Okay? So we can probably assume $36,000. Just as a tangent, because I'm looking at it. Pete told me last week, you roamed too much. I knew you went off your manuscript. So I'm not roaming, even though he's not here to tell me so. We can assume that $36,900 is actually too wealthy to get on Medicaid. The Medicaid expansion also from the Affordable Care Act. So this person pays for their health insurance. They're a fisherman, which is one of the most dangerous career choices you can make. So their insurance is expensive. They do not have a desk job, everybody. The chances of them dying and leaving their family without whatever, if they're the dad or the mom, is pretty good, all right? So, but let's assume that they have a benevolent employer and they get their health insurance with their $36,900, right? So they have $1,700 a month rent. Utilities, insurance, blah, 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 blah. They're left for about $500 left for food and clothing and gas. And I'm going to live with this family and say that they get 2 plain pizzas on Friday night from Luigi's, which is on Smith Street in Perth Amboy, once a week. Which probably leaves them with like $320 a month so they can have pizza once a week. Now, of course, they would be a 2-income family, because I think we can assume that, right? Now, the second income of the second earner in that family with children, right? Because I have a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, that's the family we're looking at, right? Probably gives up at least, and moms and dads can tell me this, but at least half of their earned income in childcare. Okay? That's what Jesus would find if Jesus came to the fishing industry in New Jersey, not Galilee, and not 2,000 years away. Now. This is what Jesus would show up and see. And that's how Jesus decided to start his ministry. Now, want to contemplate the really hard question that I've been kicking around all week? If Jesus were to start his ministry in New Jersey, not just anywhere in the world, but here in New Jersey, the part of the world that we know very best, where would he choose to go? If he was to choose something like the fishing industry in Galilee, he would be looking for a group of people who worked hard for a system that did not work for them. That's the type, right? It doesn't have to be a fisherman. Now we can include all kinds of industry that you know. He's looking for a group of people who worked for a system that did not work for them. And so even with the fishing industry, even with the hypothetical family that I've created in Perth Amboy, Jesus may have needed to find an even more vulnerable people group than the fisherman's family that I created just now. Because the definition of working poor, or what would perhaps be considered the peasant class, because that's what fishermen were, peasant class. A working poor person is defined as, which, for the record, I don't like the phrase. I just can't find another phrase, and neither can other people who don't like the phrase. But it's defined as someone who spends at least 27 or more weeks in a year working below the poverty level. So for the hypothetical family in Perth Amboy, the poverty level is actually $24,036 for their family, not $36,900. So you see, the fishermen in New Jersey are technically not even the poor that Jesus went to start his ministry. Jesus came to those who were even more vulnerable. So again, I gotta ask, if Jesus was to come here in New Jersey and start his ministry, who would he choose? Because it's not me. I have a desk job, and my employer gives me health insurance. I'm asking this question because I think that it gets to the heart of what happened around the world yesterday. There were an anticipated crowd, and before you're freaking out because I might get political, stop, okay? I'm still your pastor, and I actually love all of you. And I even know you enough to know when you're going to be mad at me. So stop, okay? There was an anticipated crowd of 350,000 people in Washington when I got off the bus at 8:30. When we arrived in D.C., however, there were 800,000 people. We got there, like I said, 8:39. By the time we got to where we decided was our front row, because we just weren't going to go any farther, right? We stood from 9 o'clock until 1:15 when we were supposed to start moving. And then it got to be 2 o'clock, and then Mary Ann looked at me and said, it's 2:15. And then it was 2:30, and then someone started to chant, hey, they can't, not chant, someone started to walk past us and they said, oh, they canceled the march, just get to the White House however you can. And I thought to me in my own critical thinking, that's not actually true, that sentence. It's not that they canceled the march. And so all the people around me, we were like, what, they canceled the march? I said, no, they didn't cancel the march. We can't move. They can't move the people. There's nowhere for us to move, right? So we were supposed to walk on a street that now is completely filled with people. There's no moving on that street. So instead, the crowd turned around and began walking that way, and they moved down, instead of Independence, they moved down Pennsylvania Avenue. It took 6 hours for the crowd to finish that walk, we think, right? We were there when it was sort of trickling and it wasn't done.
Right.
So 6, 7 hours. We get back on the bus, maybe 45 minutes later, I come to my senses, I start thinking about what just happened. And I started to think about what motivates people, right? What motivated people, not just yesterday, but what has motivated people for the last several months, and then even for the 24 months before that, right? Because this was a ridiculously long political cycle. I think we all have to realize that while some of the rhetoric that we've heard over the past several months sounds very angry, I would like us to realize that anger is a secondary emotion. Did you know that? Do you know what I mean when I say that? If someone is angry at you, or if they're appearing angry, that's the second thing they felt, at least maybe the third or fourth. The first thing they felt that fueled the anger was probably hurt or despair, hopelessness, being dismissed. Anger is often what enables us to move, but anger is developed by much more powerful, underlying, often very hidden, concealed emotions. Anger is fueled by hurt and by pain. And so the pictures of the crowds yesterday, to me, reveal a very, very hurt world. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Socialist, Green Party, I don't care who you are. The anger, the vitriol that we have heard comes from a place of deep hurt. Sometimes I would even say it comes from a place of shame, which is even more potent than hurt. But when we hear anger, right, we think the person's angry at us. We saw it on our mission trip this summer in West Virginia. We saw a whole group of people that have been overlooked and dismissed. No one cares. No one cares that there's nothing for those young people. No one cares. We've just ignored them. And so now you realize I'm not just talking about the side of the aisle that perhaps I spend most time on. Both sides of the aisle yelled in anger for the last 2 years. You have overlooked us. You have stopped caring. No one cares. No one's going to help us. And that's from America, where we really still are quite wealthy, even the working poor. So imagine, which I can't, I got home too late to look at the other stuff from the rest of the world, where there were people who only gathered with 50 women. There was one beautiful picture of about 50 women holding hands by their capital, right? I have no idea the plight of those women, right? But it's not my plight, let's be honest, right? Pain, very deep pain of being dismissed has turned to anger. And so can we imagine that Jesus called his first disciples from a place of very deep pain? Can we imagine that Jesus found a place in the world? He picked it. Can we imagine that he was intentional enough that he said, I'm not going to start my ministry where I know. I'm going to go to the shore of Galilee. I'm going to go where there are people who are dismissed. I'm going to go where people have been overlooked, where people are in pain. And that's who I'm going to call to follow me. And so in the last 2 months, I've thought, I got to be honest as your pastor, and this has been, you ask any pastor, this has been the hardest 2 months of our career. There is not an easy word that has been said. I have sought to soothe so many wounds in the congregation you are sitting in, here, in pews right next to you. People who are incredibly vulnerable. So I'm going to describe them, and you need to know that I've changed enough of the details so you will not know what I'm talking about. But an immigrant here, who's legally here, but who has now been treated with contempt because of the color of his or her skin. Because it's free game now. You can treat someone who's a person of color differently than you could 2 months ago. I've soothed the wounds of an undocumented person who needs a plan, but that is not as easy as it seems. I have soothed the wounds from a professional woman who has been called nasty so many times. But nasty is not the word we use. It's a curse word that we use to describe women like that. And it happens all the time, in boardrooms, in kitchens. I've soothed the wounds of those that have pre-existing conditions, health conditions, who may now not be able to keep their health care that is hardly affordable. And then they fear that when they have to get a new health care, they really won't be able to afford it. Several months ago, we as the leadership began working through all of our workers here, the preschool teachers, the wellness center workers, the church workers, to talk about how much do we pay a living wage, right? Now, of course, we thought that there was a possibility that the minimum wage might go up sooner than later, and so we thought maybe this is the right time to do it, right? We weren't arguing whether it was the right thing to do. $15 an hour. So by the way, again, I crunched some numbers. The fisherman in Perth Amboy, he makes $17.50. And we were arguing about 15. So it seems the right thing to do for churches to help the worker not be in a position where they are hurting. I would dare say that this is even what it means not just to pray for the kingdom to come, but to actually work for the kingdom to be present. And so this brings me back to Jesus at the shoreline in Galilee that day. Because he stumbled upon a set of 2 fishermen who had created a collaborative, I found out in my study. They had created a kinship, a koinonia. Now it doesn't say it in the Gospel of Matthew, but it does in the Gospel of Luke, if you look it up. It says that they had decided to work together. They had chosen that working together outside of the typical family bonds, right? but they would still kind of create a formal system, even though they weren't really kin. They would be a kinship. And together they would pay taxes, and together they would support one another. Now in the meantime, the kingdom, right, the empire, was the one who would benefit from their work, for sure, right? They were still peasants. But to James and John and Peter and Andrew, they had decided to create their own bond to work together, right? Now, I gotta tell you this, it's a tangent, but it's not. Lord have mercy, I cannot believe I did not know this. The name James is not a Bible name. Did you know this? Seminary people, anyone else? Anyone ever?
No.
Right. James is not, it's not an Old Testament Hebrew name or a Greek name, right? In Greek, and I feel like I was duped or something. I'm sure I even read it and then just, I don't know what happened, but in Greek, it's Jacob, and in Latin, it's also Jacob. But here, listen. When King James had the Bible translated in 1611, he had them change the name Jacob the patriarch, to James. That's pitiful. It's also so pitiful that scholars who I revere decided this isn't the time to change that. But that's what kingdom does. Kingdom says, I'm going to translate the Bible and I'm going to make me the patriarch. Kingdom says, I don't really care what the working poor do, as long as they pay their taxes. I can forget about them. Kingdom changes people's names. You see, James, though, or Jacob, because I'm going to call him Jacob from now on, so help me God. Jacob and his brother John were already adapting their world to what the kingdom of Jesus was going to teach them to be. So these four men were already experimenting. They were already expanding their kinship. Classically speaking, right, since we do have an anthropologist in the room, classically speaking, kinship is familial, right? It's bloodlines, right? But the concept has absolutely been expanded to include like individuals and groups that organize into social groups, and then social groups, more importantly, if they've interlocked their lives, that becomes kin. Social groups that depend on one another, that are interdependent. So at the time of Jesus, kingdom made sense. Jesus was building a new kingdom because they knew there was a kingdom. They understood kingdom language, right? Make no mistake, Jesus was building a political movement. Jesus was starting a political revolution. But today we don't live in a kingdom. We don't. There are other people in the world who do, but we don't. So kingdom language isn't easy for us to understand, but kin, I know kin. I know my own blood kin. I know you kin. I love that Heather said like 2 weeks ago she was in the hospital visiting Faith and a nurse came in looking official and said, you know, are you all family? And Heather said, yes, we are. Now she followed it up by saying we're church family, but I would immediately tell her you don't have to do that. No. Huh? If you're not kin in this room, I don't know what we are. Jesus was beginning a shared community of equals who serve each other. And so when Paul says, right, this other passage that I kept kicking back and forth, when he says that we ought not to have divisions among us, he is calling us to live in a shared community of equals who serve one another. He's calling us into an interdependent relationship where we live and support one another. We need one another. Jesus had just lost his cousin, right? His kin. And so what did Jesus do? The answer is really actually more simple than I thought. If we ask what would Jesus do now, where would Jesus go now? Who would Jesus build his kingdom or his kinship with now? Jesus went looking for kin. He went looking for family. Amen. Would you please stand with me?